What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. Wait a minute. No, it's not. It's Thursday. What? That's crazy. It's Dataslate Thursday. We got a new Dataslate for Warhammer 40k. New balance changes across the game, and it's pretty exciting stuff. So I'm excited to talk about it. We can all, I don't know, hop on and have a big discussion together about the changes. So yeah, it is posted in a Warhammer community article. I can go ahead and bring up the article real quick as well. It's kind of hidden for whatever reason. If we take a look at Warhammer community itself, it's not on the front page. Like if you look at the, so like if you look at the article list, it's like it descends pretty far down. You have to scroll all the way down to find it. Pretty wild. I don't know why this is not ordered in like release order, but who knows? Anyway, yeah, they talk about some patch notes in here. They don't have any change notes in the document itself, which is pretty obnoxious, but that is kind of par for the course right now for like Warhammer updates, so we just have to kind of struggle through it, I guess. Some huge ones. Dark Angels got absolutely destroyed. I don't know what Dark Angels did to piss off the design team, because they have been annihilated. I think it's largely because Dark Angels had a really high play rate and a high win rate, so I think that people were, I think that the writing was on the wall, probably, that Dark Angels needed to change. But I think that they went farther than I would have expected. No changes to the Devastator Doctrine. So on Tuesday, if you caught my live stream, we were talking about some wish lists, and I had wished that the Devastator Doctrine had changed. I think that basically every issue, every overpowered thing in the Space Marine Codex is basically tied directly to the mechanic of the Devastator Doctrine. And while they did change some of those mechanics, they didn't change the Devastator Doctrine itself. So I think that would have gone a long way to fixing the problem with Dark Angels. Instead, what they've done is just literally removed the part of Inner Circle that gives you Transhuman, which is like, oh boy. I thought that they would change it to Stalwart. I thought that was like basically a given, so you could not be wounded on 2s, only wounded on the 3+, which is good, but not like a game-breaking ability. It makes you a little bit tougher against really high strength weapons, but that's about it. Instead, what they did is just make you like infinitely, like 30% easier to kill. And I think it was a problem that Dark Angels Terminators were like so much more efficient than regular Terminators, but I don't know if they needed to go that far. I don't know. That felt like an overreaction, honestly, to me. No points breaks in Tyranids. No points breaks at all, chat. No, they don't usually change points in the update. They usually change mechanics. Tyranids did get a little bit of a buff. It's like kind of a quality of life change, but I appreciate it. I didn't expect them to get anything. It is, yeah, they did exactly do what I said for Call Order, yeah, for sure. So yeah, Dark Angels got absolutely fucking obliterated. Oh my god. So on top of Inner Circle getting removed, all of the they changed a bunch of secondary objectives, and it's interesting. The secondary objective changes are all in this section right here. I actually missed them the first time I ran through the document. I don't know if this is the same as it has been, but I don't remember. It might have been the same and I just forgot, but I guess I could look. Yeah, whatever. They changed Codex Warfare pretty substantially. I think they've killed Codex Warfare. I don't think it's a viable secondary anymore for 90% of armies. So previously it was, you scored every time you destroyed a unit with a weapon that was benefiting from your active doctrine. So heavy weapons and grenades in Devastator, assault and rapid fire weapons in Tactical, melee weapons and pistols in Assault Doctrine. It got you 2 victory points in Devastator Doctrine and 1 victory point everywhere else. The problem was that it gave you 2 points in Devastator Doctrine because you could only stay in Devastator Doctrine previously for 1 round. the problem was when they changed it so that you could stay in Devastator Doctrine for multiple rounds, they didn't change Codec Warfare, so it was really, really broken. You just got 2 points every time you killed a unit, basically, if you played any of the good Space Marine chapters. So now they didn't change how you score it. You still get 2 points for killing somebody in Devastator Doctrine and 1 point in every other doctrine. But you have to score 5 victory points from each doctrine. So it only benefits an army that's very well rounded, and it means that the doctrine in which you're doing the most damage, Devastator Doctrine, has like the least scoring volume, because you still get 2 points per unit you destroy in Devastator, but you can only score up to 5. So you can only score it 3 times. You get credit for 3 units in Devastator Doctrine, and then you have to kill 5 units in every other doctrine to max it. So you have to kill a total of 13 units spread evenly across the entire game. And a lot of I would say most armies in 40k don't even have 13 units in them. So this is a very bad secondary now. Yeah, I don't know if I love this change, to be honest. I would have liked to have seen Devastator Doctrine change instead of the secondary you get from it, but it is what it is. You can still build armies around Devastator Doctrine. You don't basically automatically get like a 12 to 15 point secondary on top of that, which I think is probably good enough to stem the bleeding of like Space Marine chapters like Iron Hands. So I don't know. It's not the direction I would have preferred to see things change, but it is certainly, it is certainly, I think, a step in the right direction for sure. So Dark Angels also took great use of Codex Warfare. I think if anyone is going to score Codex Warfare in multiple doctrines, it might be Dark Angels, but I think you're still disincentivized to switch doctrines at all because Devastator Doctrine is so strong. So I think that between those two changes, I think Dark Angels are probably maybe a little bit less consistent than they were, but they just switched from playing a bunch of Inner Circle guys to playing a bunch of Ravenwing guys. And they lose like their best secondary objective, which is a big change, but I don't know. I don't think they're like dead as a faction. It is like, I don't know. This FAQ does go harder than I expected on Dark Angels for sure, though. Oh boy. Yeah, most armies like 10 to 14. Yeah, for sure. There are definitely some outliers. Like, you know, you can talk about like Custodes, Imperial Knights, like that kind of stuff. Like, do not even play 12 units. The more elite armies, and even so, right? A lot of times you have like 9 to 11-ish like combat units, and then the rest of it is like are trash like support units and support characters, and those are very difficult to kill before the end of the game. Maybe different for Space Marines because they have Desolators. So Desolators always have the chance to kill something like late game after all your important stuff is dead. But I don't know. I still think it's. If you're killing people with Desolators, you're not even scoring at the end of the game. You're not even scoring Codex Warfare, so it doesn't matter. So anyway, huge change to Space Marines. Absolutely enormous. Yeah, but I think fortunately the other chapters that weren't relying on, well, there were chapters that were relying on Devastator Doctrine to score Codex Warfare that weren't like Devastator Doctrine Super Doctrine chapters, and that was really weird. And those builds have been nerfed. I know Ultramarines did that a little bit. I know that some cat hair in front of me, chat. I know that some Space Wolves builds did it, and I wonder if like you could maybe make it work with Space Wolves. They're the one chapter that feels like they play in all 3 doctrines at some point, because they started like they're good in Devastator. They're great in Tactical because they have all the melta guns, and then they want to get to Assault for their Super Doctrine anyway. But again, like I don't think you can score it quickly enough. At that point, I think if you max Codex Warfare, you basically already won the game. All right. Let's what else we got here, chats? Yeah, so there's a bunch of other changes to some of the smaller factions. Astra Militarum got hit a little bit. They really got a kind of a slap on the wrist, I think. That's the most important one, though. That's the one I think a lot of people are holding their breath for, because Astra Militarum, despite having, you know, there are some matchups in which Astra Militarum have struggle a little bit, which is things like Space Marines, like like especially Desolator focused Space Marine armies, do have an advantage matchup into Astra Militarum. Basically every other army in the game doesn't have a chance of beating them. So we did see some pretty transformative changes. The biggest one is the nerf to the Kazrakin combo. Thank God. So the Kazrakin combo, for some reason, they didn't change Born Soldiers, which is wild. Absolutely insane. So Born Soldiers remains one of the only Gene Rot Might effects, so 6s to hit automatically wound, that then also convert those hits to 6s. Hail of Doom works the same way, but Hail of Doom specifically only works on a single type of weapon, so I think it's a little bit different. And it gets rid of all your other sub-faction abilities, which I guess also Born Soldiers really does. But Born Soldiers has other text applied to it. So with a Kazrakin squad with overcharged las cells, you could split your fire 3 times, and then you use the stratagem for Born Soldiers to auto wound on 5s and have those wounds convert into 6s to wound. So all of those 6s to hit, or the 5s to hit and 6s to wound convert into mortal wounds on whatever you're shooting. And you just split the Kazrakin squad 3 ways, and you have a very good chance of getting 6 mortal wounds on each target. It was super duper toxic. The Kazrakin actually, they had a little bit of trouble actually like wiping units, but they put every unit down to 1 or 2 models, and then mortars would just kill them. And now instead of inflicting 6 mortal wounds per unit, you now inflict 6 mortal wounds total. So you are more incentivized to shoot at one thing, basically. Or split like your volley guns off, do mortal wounds, and then shoot the regular guns at somebody else. It's a dramatic reduction in the power level of the combo, which is good. They didn't get rid of it, which I think would be unfortunate. As much as I don't like turn 1 deep strikes, just getting rid of an entire mechanic would be annoying. But they did make it significantly less powerful. Still good, though. I think you still play Kazrakin. Maybe you don't go all in on all 3. Maybe you just play 2. But that's pretty strong. The other change here is to the Finial of the Nemerdish first. This ignored attack roll, hit and wound modifiers, and abilities that allow your opponent to ignore wounds. Now they removed the change to the removal of hit and wound roll modifiers. So you can be -1 to wounded, you can be -1 to hit, you can shoot through dense cover, you can move and shoot with heavies. All of those will affect you now, which is huge. I think it becomes more matchup dependent of a relic, but I don't think it's quite as ubiquitous as it was. The kicker to me was ignoring move and shoot, because there was a lot of ways to like give your units heavy weapons and stuff. Like you could use first rank fire, second rank fire to give your las weapons the heavy characteristic, the heavy weapon type, and then move and shoot with them without penalty, just because of Finial. So you basically got like 2 orders like stapled together for the price of 1. And now Finial just ignores the wound reduction. So I don't know. There's going to be a lot of matchups where that doesn't do anything because your opponent doesn't have wound ignore rules. But if you're fighting like Dreadnoughts or something with a damage ignore, especially a mortal wound ignore, which is the other thing, since they ruled that an effect that allows you to ignore damage from a weapon also, an effect that allows you to ignore wound reduction from a weapon also counts against any mortal wounds it does. So the overcharged last cells combo would shoot through like a 5+ damage ignore like Aegis that Grey Knights had, for example, and that was really dumb. So there are situations like that where it's going to be useful, but I don't even know if you pick it up a lot of times. It probably depends. Yeah, honestly, so the other thing, I mean, the other thing that changed here is that we did see a Arcs of Omen mission pack change, and we actually saw an enormous buff to Inflexible Command. So I'm like, honestly, I think that the changes are kind of performative for Astra Militarum. The Astra Militarum does a little bit less damage now. They can be affected by -1 to be hit, but their core game plan is not really changed at all. And the fact that Inflexible Command is now better, because previously you didn't score Inflexible Command if you put anything in reserve. So because you are incentivized to like play an engage in all fronts style game plan with boots on the ground, Inflexible command and boots on the ground would actually butt heads a little bit, where you didn't want to put stuff in reserve to try to score boots on the ground on your opponent's table quarters by deep striking stuff in, because you would then cut yourself points on inflexible command, at least in the early game. Generally, it didn't really matter, to be honest, but they just changed it to being so that it ignores units that are in reserve. It only counts units that are on the battlefield to be near each other for inflexible command, and that's a little bullshit, honestly. So I think that, like, I don't really foresee that Astra Militarum get like a dramatic reduction in their power level. I think that the changes they got were fair, but they're still going to be super toxic in some situations. They just don't like alpha strike you and murder you immediately. So that's good, I guess. You don't just lose if you can't deal with the Kazarkin combo. You just probably lose, but like the score is closer, I guess. Is the change to inflexible applicable to pods that are already in progress? No. No, the rules have locked already. No changes will matter. Yeah, GSC did get some nerfs. So, moving on. Let's see. Talked about some buffs. A lot of it is removing nerfs that they already did, which is a little bit annoying because it's not called out anywhere except for their article. So Tyranids, they lost the clause that requires the or that requires you to lock in your adaptive trait at the start. And I think they also lost their nerf to synaptic imperatives. All right, it might be time to actually go grab the old Dataslate. Let's grab it. I should have downloaded it beforehand. That would have been smart, but I literally just woke up just a little while ago. So here is our original Arcs of Omen balance data slate, just so we can compare all of the changes. So yeah, Tyranids previously had the Overrun change, the Spore Mine change, the Reaper change, High Fleet Leviathan change. So basically, I think all three of these bullet points have been removed, is what it looks like to me. Yeah. Wow, that's actually huge. So you no longer have to choose a Hive Tyrant as your Warlord. Holy shit, actually. I didn't even realize that. I thought that was in a... honestly, I thought that was in an FAQ change. Oh, wow. Okay, that's insane. So you no longer have to choose a Hive Tyrant as your Warlord. You no longer have to have your Warlord on the table for Synaptic Imperatives, and you no longer have to lock in your adaptive trait at the beginning. The Hive Tyrant as your Warlord thing is big because picking a Neurothrope as your Warlord was almost always superior. You basically always had a Warlord trait on one Neurothrope. I was either Direct Guidance or Synaptic Tendrils. And the Neurothrope is like functionally impossible for your opponent to kill. That also means that you can take Swarm Lord alongside Neurothropes and he doesn't lock in your Warlord trait slot. So that's actually really good. If you take Swarm Lord and double or triple Neurothrope, you used to just have to use the Tyranid stratagem to get Warlord traits, but now you can use the core one as well. Because Swarm Lord had to be your Warlord, and then you can play very aggressively with Swarm Lord, and if he dies, like it doesn't really matter at all. So that's like a quality of life change, honestly. You can still get your Synaptic Imperative even if your Warlord dies, so that's cool. I think the adaptive one, now that I think Tyranids are like kind of forced to branch out a little bit more, rather than just playing like +1 to charge all the time, which is what they did on release for the most part. The adaptive, there's a lot, like most of the competitive subfactions Tyranids are playing Lurk biomorphologies, and the Lurk biomorphology tree is really, really deep. So you can take Territorial Instincts, you can take Naturalized Camouflage, you can take the one that extends the range of your psychic powers. And if your opponent has a hard counter to any one of those, you can switch out of it. So that's actually super sick. That's awesome. I'm psyched for that. All right, good job, Tyranids. That's actually a much bigger buff, honestly, than I thought it was for Tyranids. That's huge. Good stuff. It is. Well, I think you choose adaptive traits. Oh yeah, it is after determining the first turn. Yeah, so you could do it with the Gaunt thing. I think a lot of times it's going to be like you play Naturalized Camo, and if your opponent has lots of cover ignoring, you just switch to, you know, Territorial Instincts to give your Hive Tyrants OPSEC or something. Or whatever your normal adaptive trait is. I don't know, it just makes adaptive traits much better. I don't think it like changes list building significantly. I just think it makes the lists that are already good just like an iota better. You're like 2% better. Just because your abilities are more flexible. Never not taken Territorial Instincts. Yeah, so the document is why don't I put a link in. Here's a link to the actual article. I'll put it in the description too. It's like they like buried it like beneath the fold on the first page. It's super obnoxious to find. If you go to the Warhammer community front page, it's like not at the top. It's all the way down here for some reason. Like it's below all of the stuff from like earlier this week. This is all stuff from, yeah, this is from the 12th. So it just didn't get put on the like latest news thing, which is strange. I don't know. All right. I wonder if there are any other changes that we can find between the old and the new thing. Dataslate change. So the other one was that they removed the restriction of core from broadside battle suits in Tau. Actually, that Tau section just oh no, here it is. Yeah. So I believe that's the only change that was in the Tau thing initially. Where did my document just go for the original Dataslate? Don't know what I did here. Oh, I clicked away from it. That's why. So this is the last Dataslate that's being updated. Yeah, they just removed the core keyword change for broadside battle suits. So broadsides are core again. I'm a little worried about that, honestly, but I think Tau they've lost enough other abilities that it's probably fine. I'm surprised that Tau got a buff. They did not seem to be doing that badly. Seemed like they were okay. But broadside battle suits with core are incredibly strong. Especially because you can put like through boldness victory on them. You can put like full rerolls on them. You can make their indirect fire super duper insane. So I think that this last set of Arcs of Omen does feel like a little bit of an indirect fire kind of vibe. We got Astra Militarum, we got Tau indirect fire coming back. We've got Desolators happening. Feels like it's going to be the artillery game for a little while. Throughout the end of the end of the edition here, which is a little bit worrying, but who knows? Maybe it's fine. Yeah. Anyway, broadside battle suit's real good, so that's nice for them. Let's see, what else do we have in the article? Where did I just put my article? I think I just navigated away from it. So, yeah, so they mentioned the Tyranid changes. They mentioned the Tau broadside changes. Deathwatch did get a little bit of a change. It feels like the changes that we talked about for Deathwatch on Tuesday, actually, they basically just did. I was talking about either I think that they should pick Doctrine every round instead of having to be restricted to X number of Doctrine uses per game. They should just pick whichever one they want to be in every turn. In kind of the... I was kind of hoping that we would see a Devastator Doctrine nerf and then Deathwatch get superior doctrines to regular Marines, and they didn't get that. So Deathwatch is still inferior to a Devastator Doctrine Super Doctrine subfaction, but at least they're more flexible than they were. The other thing that I suggested was also having them pick Super Doctrines, but still be restricted on the number of uses per doctrine they could have. They just got the unlimited doctrine selection, so they just got the... You don't get a doctrine and then go through the sequence of doctrines. You just pick a doctrine every round, and you can switch in between. So if we need heavy weapons, we're in the heavy weapon doctrine. If we need assault weapons, we get to the assault weapon doctrine. It's just really flexible. Still no super doctrine for them, though, but they did get a huge buff to Call Order, which I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought that the change that I was suggesting was a little bit esoteric, but I guess not. For Call Order, if you destroy any unit in each of the battlefield roles you select, you get 3 victory points. If you destroy all of them, you get 5 instead. So Call Order is their special secondary. You pick 3 battlefield roles in your opponent's army. Previously, it was if you wipe them. For each one you wipe, you get 5 victory points, which is super tough because your opponent would just give you 2 and hide 1 or whatever. And then you would lose out on 5 victory points, which is huge. But now if you kill at least one of those, you'll get 3 victory points automatically. So it's probably a pretty solid 9, depending on your opponent's build, if they have 3 battlefield roles that you can choose through. Or a much harder, like 11 to 13. Getting the full 15 seems tough, but if you're like wiping your opponent, then it seems pretty good. So that's cool. Good job. They just released vehicle stats for 10, like just now, like as we were on the talking. What? Where did they release that? I don't see an article about it. Anyway. Yeah, so I think that's nice. The downside obviously is that, well, I guess Deathwatch might be the best Codex Warfare subfaction, right? Those don't intersect, do they? I think that Codex Warfare is No Mercy. Is that right? I hope that's right. And Call Order is Purge the Enemy. Yeah, Call Order is Purge. Yeah, so it conflicts with Codex Warfare. So it does conflict with Codex Warfare. Okay, so they won't get both. That is interesting. So they got a nerf to Codex Warfare, which you probably weren't taking anyway, but this version of Codex Warfare, Deathwatch, could actually score, I guess, because you could pick whichever doctrine you need, like you're gonna score more of every round to get big Codex Warfare points. That's funny. But I guess you can't take both. It's a little sad. Oh well. I guess you can still take Oaths of Moment, though. That's in No Mercy, No Respite for Deathwatch, for Space Marine chapters, so I don't know. Alright. It'd be cool if you could take both, I guess, but it is what it is. If your opponent doesn't have doesn't give up good victory points in any other Purge the Enemy, you can fall back on Codex Warfare. As long as they have enough units, obviously. The Brood Swarm secondary objective got nerfed. So Genestealer Cult didn't get any changes. That was the one place I think I would have liked to have seen points changes. I don't think anything else in the game really needs points changes, unless they didn't change like Deathwing Terminators, because Deathwing Terminators were just too cheap for what they did. But all of the Genestealer Cult stuff got all the Genestealer Cult secondaries got nuked a little bit. So Brood Swarm, you delete the first and last bullet point. So if you have more models on the battlefield, you do not score. And if you get all 4 objectives, you do not score. So it used to be capped at 5 victory points a turn, or each round at the end of your turn. For having more models in the battlefield, more models in your opponent's deployment zone, more models in your deployment zone, more models in no man's land. So it checked all three sections of the table. Your side, middle, your opponent's side, and then more on the table. And if you had all 4, you got 5 victory points. And that was pretty easy, I think. Now it caps at 3, per turn. So if you ever don't do them, you're going to be losing out on points. And for the most part, I think it's unlikely that you... In fact, it's basically impossible that you scored on the first turn. So this is an impossible max, basically, to score more models in your opponent's deployment zone. Yeah, you could like strategic reserve 1 unit in, but they can't come in the deployment zone because they count as round 2. And you could pre-game move a unit in, but that's it. And it counts models, and your opponent's whole army is going to be there. So you basically can only score the 14 on this. It should be... I think you'll get these 2 every turn, so it should be an easy 10. But it's no longer like an auto max. So that's big. Yeah, that one I think you could just mark 15 victory points off, basically, automatically. And then they also, in the other... in the FAQ... oh, it's just another nerf to Brood Swarm. So now it requires you to be wholly within the deployment zone rather than within. So 2 nerfs to Brood Swarm. I don't know if the other secondaries are quite as easily scoring for... The ambush is pretty good. I know occasionally you see the action secondary, the sabotage critical location secondary, but that one's a lot less played. But I know ambush is a little bit tougher than Brood Swarm. Brood Swarm was basically an automatic 15. So that's good. 2 nerfs to Brood Swarm. And I think that, like, I don't know what else you do to Genestealer Cult. It's such a weird faction that outside of, like, reducing the number of, like, models it can take, or, like, I don't know, like, making their, like, regenerating models a different thing. Maybe changing, like, the Return to the Shadow secondary, or stratagem. I don't know. They're just very, like, they're a very consistent army. They just have the same game plan every game, and so, like, I don't know what else you would do to change them. But I think the nerfing Brood Swarm's huge, especially because Genestealer Cult almost always give up your opponent tons of secondaries. If your opponent's, like, aggressive at all, they'll get huge points on assassination usually, and they'll always max no prisoners against Genestealer Cult. I've never seen no prisoners not get at least, like, a 13. Against that faction. So having less powerful secondaries themselves mean they have to play the primary game more to win, and then that's just obviously introduces inconsistency to their game plan. So I don't know, that seems good. Playing behind enemy lines, yeah, I can see that. Instead of the other thing, instead of the Brood Swarm. Brood Swarm, does the Brood Swarm now max at 10? No. You still max it at 15. If you score all 3 secondaries every turn, then you will win. You'll get 15. As far as I see, right? There's no restriction on it. Yeah. There's 3 bullet points, each of which you can score once per round. So if you score all 3 of them all 5 rounds of the game, then you score 15. But it's functionally impossible that you'll score them all. But it is possible. It is technically possible. The best kind of possible. I guess, like, against Imperial Knights, you could get all of them on the first turn, right? Because they'll have, like, if they put like 12 models in their deployment zone, or like 9, I guess, then you could just pre-game move a Genestealer unit in, like blow up an Arbiter and then put them entirely in your opponent's deployment zone and score. That is funny. Anyway, let's see. What other changes we got? Where's the article? Here we go. There are changes to secondary objectives. Yep, we talked about those. I think that's it, basically. Yeah, not a huge change. These mid-season updates are real, just like light touches. They had a change to Abhor the Witch. They moved it from Warpcraft to Purge. Yeah, whatever. It does make it so that it's worse, but only like a little bit worse for armies that don't bring Psychers. Because it used to be that Abhor the Witch versus Thousand Suns and Grey Knights was like a free roll. You just windmill slammed it because it was basically free. but now if you have a secondary that you want to score in there, it could intersect, which is like, okay, that's like a big nothing change. Just get rid of stupid Abhor the Witch. It's so dumb. It's like, I don't know. It's such a the reasoning behind the existence of Abhor the Witch is such flawed logic that it doesn't really make sense. And then we talked about Codex Warfare. We talked about Call Order. We talked about the change to Inflexible Command that buffed it for some reason. And then I think that's all that changes, chat. So, yeah, nothing really to buff the bottom factions besides Deathwatch. So Deathwatch and Tyranids got a nudge, but Thousand Suns are the ones that needed it. I think Death Guard are like I don't want to say Death Guard are in like a healthy spot, but they're in an okay spot. They're like power level equivalent, or at least win weight equivalent to Tyranids. It would have nice to maybe have seen something if Tyranids were getting buffed. I didn't expect any changes to Tyranids, but if Tyranids were getting buffed, I think I would have liked to have seen something for the like 43 and 44% factions. But Thousand Suns getting only a change to Abhor the Witch is pretty stupid. They needed something else. But I don't know. You just like give them Armor of Contempt back and call it a day. Oh, man. Can I expand on why Abhor the Witch is bad? Yeah, it just punishes specific factions for like with no counterplay, right? Like if you're playing Thousand Suns or you're playing Grey Knights, which are the two big ones that get hit, almost no other faction gets hit by it. So it's specifically against those two factions. They don't have any way to not take Psykers. Thousand Suns could play like Warp Meld Pact or something, right? But like they have to like contort themselves into such a bizarre and like a suboptimal form to not take Psykers or not take like a ton of Psykers that it's not really worth it. And Grey Knights just literally, they don't have an option. The only non-Psyker units in the Codex are vehicles and servitors. So like there's no counterplay that you can do to it if you're playing one of these psychic factions. And the only reason that it exists is to like give the non-factions that are unable to take Psykers or disincentivize it from taking Psykers, to give them more counterplay to Abhor the Witch, but it's like a power imbalance. To the Warpcraft secondaries, but it's a huge power imbalance because Abhor the Witch doesn't require you to do anything. You just have to play your normal game plan, and it will score you like 13 points. Whereas the Warpcraft secondaries require you to give up casting, usually give up a lot of casting, and then also introduce some level of variance because you can fail your psychic test rolls. So it punishes instead of balancing out Warpcraft secondaries between the factions that can take it and the factions that can't take it. It just punishes the factions that have to take a lot of Psykers to play their normal game plan. That's all it does. They just worse, like for no reason. It also, on top, because it requires you to only to not have any Psykers in your own army, it also disincentivizes armies from playing Psykers if they were like a 0-1. Like if you don't have a game plan for Space Marine librarians, you will never play a Space Marine librarian because it cuts you out of playing Abhor the Witch. Which is like, come on, really? Like why do we have the secondary that just like removes data sheets from your codex? It's so stupid. Yeah, it's just a disaster of a secondary, and it has been since the beginning of the game, the beginning of the edition. Drukhari got a buff. Did I miss a Drukhari change? Yeah, I guess we can just go through all of these and real quick make sure that we hit them all. I do this where it's not obtrusively large. Whoop. Oh my god, now it's too small. All right. Yeah, their secondary objective section was different in the past, so I guess I didn't just forget that. Chaos Demons only have the change to. Chaos Demons moved to the end of this page. Weird. Chaos Demons only got the change to Flamers, which I already knew about. Space Marines. are the same. I think they reduced the font size, it looks like. Or maybe the column width. These are all formatted slightly differently in the new one. Death Guard are not even on this page anymore. Well, this is confusing. So Drukhari got... Oh, core keyword returned to Talos and Kronos. That means they can respawn each other, right? That was the restriction. Was that you could respawn... You could only respawn core units, and they were core, so they could make each other back again. That seems fine, I guess. That is nice that Drukhari got something. Drukhari did feel like they were hurting pretty hard. Harlequins is the same. Azyuriani is the same. Chaos Space Marines is the same. Adeptus Mechanicus is the same. Tyranids we talked about. Sisters are the same. Necrons are the same. Militarum we talked about. Custodes are the same. Orcs are the same. Yep, so that was the only other change it looks like. And the Death Guard, yeah, also the same, even when they moved pages. Wonder what the... I wonder what the... What is the... Like, why are these where they are? They aren't... They aren't alphabetical. It's very weird. It's just haphazard. Maybe they just put them wherever they fit in the formatting. Super strange. All right, well, good to know. We got it. No one will try to take Assassinate against Thousand Suns. I took Cranial Feast against Thousand Suns the other day and I maxed it. Nailed it. A nerf to font size. Get wrecked font size. Oh, Custodians did get changed? What? What did I miss? Oh, they added a sentence at the bottom here. That's annoying. Who would notice that? That wasn't looking specifically for it. They didn't call that out in their article, right? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's the stealthiest nerf I've ever seen in my life. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I guess you can't use Arcane Genetic Alchemy and Emperor's Auspice on a Custodian Infantry unit at the same time. Okay. I mean, I guess that's good, right? Like, you can... That means you can just, like, apply reroll wounds against something that you're winning on 3s or 2s, and then your opponent's not just like, get fucked! -2, and your rerolls go away. That was especially for stuff that had rerolls to wound. It's especially rerolls to wound. The combination was really brutal, but I don't know. It didn't feel like that was that insane. That's a weird change. I don't know. Just all right. Yeah, we need change logs for sure. It's insane. It's insane that they don't put change notes or change logs out, and they don't even recolor them. Ah, so frustrating. At least they did it for points values. At least they changed the color on points values. Baby steps, I guess. Baby steps. To nerf to the Solar Watch blocks? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. That does make sense. All right. Well, that's the data sheet, the data slate. I think big losers, definitely Thousand Suns. I think that, like, Grey Knights feels the same. because you were never really giving up the other secondaries too much anyway. Sometimes you gave up Assassinate as Grey Knights, but that was always kind of weird. And Thousand Suns do feel like they got kind of nuked. Although, yeah, and it's Purge, not like sometimes Grey Knight or Thousand Suns armies give out no prisoners really highly because you're playing like 60 wounds of Terminators and like 40 wounds of Spawn or whatever. But it's in Purge, not No Mercy. So it doesn't even conflict with no prisoners. So you can take no prisoners against like a really voluminous Thousand Suns army and also still take Abhor. Which is, I mean, it's the same as it was, but it means that like that interaction isn't quite as bad. I don't know. Yeah. It's big feel bad. All right. Everybody's asking, I want to talk about the 10th edition article. Let's do that. Hey, there it is. We found it. I've not read this at all, chat. This came out, I think, literally while we were streaming, right? So, I have not seen this. Almost every vehicle in the game has received a bump in toughness. You find units like the Orc Stompa with a toughness as high as 14. Weapons in the game have been recalibrated to fit to the new scale. We'll be talking about those tomorrow. Yeah, we did already see this happening a little bit, right? Because we saw Cyclone missile launchers go to strength 9. Hunter killer missiles are strength 14. Okay. What is the... Like, I understand that you want to make, like, profile matchups, like, a little bit more narrow. But already, like, I don't know. It felt like toughness versus strength in the game was already very arbitrary. So like you would randomly stumble into really good profile matchups to just fuck people really hard. But if you're gonna like double the strength of everything in the game, what's the point of increasing the toughness? Just, okay. That feels totally superfluous. One shot has a unique keyword on it. That's cool. They have 3 attacks. They hit on 4s. What? They're good at fighting now. That's wild. Deadly Demise D3. So that must mean the on a 6 you explode for D3 mortal wounds, I would imagine. Firing Deck 2. So you can shoot 2 models at the top, maybe? Hell yeah. We got the old top hatch Rhino rules back. That's a blast from the past, chat. Who remembers when Devastator Squads used to shoot out of the top of these things? Insane. And its self-repair is back. Oh my god. Rhinos fucking slap, dude. Toughness 9 also. Jesus. But like we saw that small arms didn't change at all, right? So it's still 10 wounds with a 3-up save. It's also 2 points of objective control. It's still 10 wounds with a 3-up save, but it's now like basically all bolt guns wounded on 6s. It's kind of a huge change, and I guess I don't know. Bolt guns feel like they're just fucking garbage this edition. Like the bolt guns went from being like not good, that you would only shoot them at light infantry, to being just terrible. It looks like they wound most vehicles on 6s and most like heavy infantry on 5s, and they're still AP0. It's bizarre. The bottom end of the pool of Space Marine vehicles with a toughness of 9. Less vulnerable to most infantry portable weapons and even Meltagun blasts. So are Meltaguns gonna stay at strength 8, I wonder? And then wound on 5s? Jesus. What? So sorry everyone who brought put multi-meltas in their teams. Let's see. The first dictates how many mortal wounds are suffered by nearby units when the vehicle explodes with a bullet point. The bullet point says, provided you roll a 6 on death as before. Okay. I'm glad that they keyworded that. I hope that creates more. I was actually talking to somebody at a tournament just recently about this, and I wish that there was more interaction between like effect on death abilities. Like we've talked about, like there's a lot of There's a lot of auto explodes and stuff in the game. And I wish that there were, like, I don't know, cool interactions with that. I think Ramshackle is a good example, where, like, if an orc vehicle explodes, you have a chance to do something, like, you have the opportunity to do something else around it. And I'd like to see more of that. As, like, an archetype, not just, like, a one-off thing that you can do. And having it be a universal special rule means that you can create abilities that say, like, when you roll for Deadly Demise, X thing happens. You roll on a 4 instead of a 6. Or you may roll on a 4, even. Most vehicles have an objective control of more than one. Nice. Storm Speeders, also toughness 9? Jesus. It's open topped. Why is it the same as a Rhino? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. This is just like dramatically harder to kill than a Rhino. Also 11 wounds. Alright. And 3 OC. Because there's 3 guys in it. Of course. So stupid. Gladiators T10. 12 wounds. Repulsors T12. Whoa! Let's go, Repulsor! A lot of vehicles used to suffer from characteristics that degraded as they took damage. Most of them simply suffer a penalty to their hit rolls when reduced to 1/3 of their starting wounds. But I guess the Rhino, they said that those would be abilities on the datasheet. I guess the Rhino doesn't do that. Right? Yeah. I don't see any abilities that say that. Many vehicles don't degrade at all. Alright, sweet. I do like vehicle degradation a little bit, but I think that we are... One of the things I liked about vehicles in 8th edition was that they basically operated the same as other units. In previous editions, vehicles were an entirely different mechanic. So like if you knew how to play, if you knew how the rules worked around infantry squads, that didn't necessarily mean that you knew how vehicles worked, because vehicles literally used an entirely different set of rules for almost every situation. And I liked that in 8th edition they just said, I don't know, they're the same now, and they made the game much more approachable that way. It feels like we're beyond that, but I did like the original reasoning behind vehicle degradation is that, like, you, instead of losing models as they took damage like a normal squad would, vehicles lost efficiency, which it's just a different way of, like, having them deal damage. Oh, excuse me, chat. Oh my god, I'm sorry. A Melta will likely be 12. I mean, probably not, right? I think a Melta will probably be 9. It would be weird for them to say that toughness 9 makes you less vulnerable to Melta guns if Melta guns were not strength 9, strength 8 or 9, right? Because currently rhinos are wounded on 3s because they're T7 versus strength 8. So if you're T9 versus strength 12, then nothing's changed. Like I said, like, why even? If you're gonna dramatically improve the strength value of every single weapon in the game, why even change the toughness values? At that point, it doesn't matter. I don't know. These new toughness. Well, we have to see what the strength values look like. If this feels, I don't know. This feels like kind of a nothing change, I think, for the most part. But maybe they want you to play a wider variety of anti-tank weapons, not just like only slam multi-meltas if you need to kill tanks, which is currently kind of how it works. Because if multi-meltas like vaporize light vehicles, but they don't do anything to T10 or something, so that you also need to take like whatever laser destroyers or something on top of that. That I think that's something that's maybe interesting. But I think you'd always just take the high strength stuff, probably. I guess it's less efficient. If they cap strengths at like 14, like they did with the missile, it's less efficient against the high toughness stuff. Or the medium toughness stuff, because you wound most of the stuff on 3s, most of the vehicles on 3s rather than 2s. So you're not really incentivized to pay extra They'll probably cost the really high strength anti-tank stuff like exorbitantly high, so it's good against the really high cost vehicles, but it's sort of a waste of time against the smaller vehicles. That's how I imagine it will end up. Anything for Chaos Knights in the data slate? Nothing for Chaos Knights, I'm sorry. Chaos Knights are at like a coin flip right now, though, so they're doing okay. They're not bringing front, back, side armor values. Thank God. That mechanic is fun and cool from a extremely casual standpoint, but it did not hold up to any level of gameplay at all. You need to have a base, a demarcated base for that mechanic. You need to do it like Star Wars Legion does, where they put everything on a base and then they divide the base into quadrants so that you can use a laser line to determine what quadrant you're in. The way that the previous way the 40k did it was just like, I don't know, fucking make it up, was just ridiculous. Absolutely. Absolute clown fiesta of a mechanic. So stupid. The comeback of the autocannon? Maybe. That'd be sweet. Autocannons are one of my favorite weapons conceptually, but they're just never good. There's never been a situation in which an autocannon has been very good. Rifleman Dreadnoughts, maybe? Was the one? That was only because you could take 4 of them. And they were like good against sort of medium vehicles. But even then, it was whatever. Alright. Well, that's cool. Big toughness changes. Big toughness. Let's take a look at this Arbites datasheet, chat. Find the article real quick. What is going on with this front page? They're really pushing this Lion article. Oh my god. Everything's just getting pushed down. Obnoxious. The MetaWatch article is already more difficult to find since we started streaming today. This is an entirely new Agents of the Imperium index. Oh, this is boarding action. Is it? No, this is just new. Yeah, this is Agents of the Imperium. They called it Armies of the Imperium. That's wrong. What? All right, cool. So let's go find the Arbites. Where are you at, Arbites? Or is it Arbites? Is that what they call them? Ooh, oh, they have different squad types. Look at them. There's a bunch of different types. Cool. All right, so they're stormtroopers, basically. Oh, no, 4+ ballistic skill. So they're guardsmen, but with carapace armor. So that's fun. Anything on Omnissiah Sphinx? Anything for the guard in the data slate? Yeah, guard got nuked, but not hard enough, I think. The Kazrakan bomb's mostly dead. You cap it at 6 mortal wounds, and the Finial of the Nemrodish first is like super duper nuked. But Inflexible Command got better somehow, so that's weird. Arbiters? That's probably what they should be called, but they like staying with the Roman nomenclature. All right, in your morale phase, select one enemy infantry cavalry biker unit not sanctioned. Not sanctioned. What does that mean? If you do so, oh, okay. This sanctions them. It's explained within the same ability. Roll 2d6 if the result is greater than or equal to the unit's leadership characteristic. Then at the start of your next morale phase, until the start of your next morale phase. Oh, it's 9 inches invisible though. Ooh. So if you beat that, if you cause them to fail an old school leadership check, then they get -1 to hit until the start of your next morale phase. That's a really good ability, but not within 9. Call it 18 and not visible, and then we're talking. 9 invisible is just too annoying. Also, it costs 10 points. What the fuck? Nah, that sucks. I wish that they would, like, I don't know. I guess it's like, it's hard because as much as I want these units to be like really like sort of eminently playable, and have like really cool, unique abilities, it's also funny. It's also weird because you just, if they're good, you end up giving like a huge buff to like half the game. Oh no, my camera's frozen. There it is. I don't know. I've been having lots of camera problems this week, chat. I think my cord for the camera might be bad that I plug it in with. It's weird because you buff only the Imperium subfaction. So it's not like if you make a good Agents of the Imperium unit, you make like the game sort of generically becomes better, because anyone not playing an Imperium subfaction doesn't get access to it. So I think they have to like pull their punches on these a lot, which kind of sucks. It'd be cool if these were like had like really good support abilities. And that would be a good one. That would be like an interesting one. If you had like leadership, if you took a lot of them and you had like a leadership reducing abilities, you could apply this like universal -1 to hit. If you could do it through walls too, it'd be like actually good against like Imperial Guard and stuff. Not for 120 points though. They have randomly a lot of attacks. They have shotguns, which are AP 1. All right. That's pretty good. As well as shot pistols, which are also AP 1. Can we talk about Arbites ranged weapons just being better than bolt guns? Eat your heart out, Space Marines. Get absolutely wrecked. The policemen are coming for you. They're going to sanction you. And then the Mastiff is Strength 5 AP 1. That's okay. And they have a Weber. Just like the Genestealer cult. The Subductor Squad also gets a Nuncio Aquila. So their shields don't do anything, I guess. Oh, they get a 5+ invulnerable save. And they can set to defend even if it's not in defensible. That's cool. How do you make an Adeptus Arbites detachment? Do they have a HQ? I guess we can look after this. So they're 2 attacks each for like 12 points though. 2 attacks each. They have a 5+, 3+, or a 3+, 5+, which is okay, and their Strength 5 AP 1. Whatever. Exaction squads. Oh, you can. Oh no, these ones you can take in 5s though. Well, that's pretty good. For 65? Okay. Now we're talking. 10 for 120 is a lot, but as soon as you get to those 5 model units, they become more useful utility units. For every 5, you get 2 special weapons. Duplicates not allowed. I like this verbiage better than the, like, you can only select 1 of each sort of weird thing. An Executioner, Shotgun, Grenade Launcher, Heavy Stubber, Weber. Is that the same as the other guys? They don't all get those, right? Oh, Vigilance too. Yeah. But they get, this is 2 for 5, right? 2 per 5? Yeah, for every 5. So you could take 4 heavy weapons in this squad. The Revelatum is a 2+. 2+ ballistic skill, but I don't think I imagine you can't give him the heavy weapons, right? Yeah, no, it's just the Exaction Vigilance, which are the regular mooks. And he gets to ignore cover He makes the unit ignore cover. That guy seems okay. And they all have combat shotguns. The grenade launchers... Oh, wow, the grenade launcher's actually BA. Hot damn. Okay. Strength 6 everyone 3 damage. Jesus. And they don't cost anything? They're free upgrades? Okay. Is this unit good? No, it's just one shot, right? Yeah. You get 4 of them. You could get 4 of the sniper shotgun, but it's only, what, ballistic skill 4. If these guys are ballistic skill 3, I think there's some armies that would consider them for sure. Not at ballistic skill 4, though. They have the brutal judgment ability. Totally missed that. Oh, that's cool. Every time they model this unit makes an attack that targets a unit within half range. It is attack, not ranged attack. How does that work with melee attacks? Do you have to like be within a half inch? That might literally be how it works. That's actually kind of okay. Is there a way to give them rerolls? Probably somewhere. Let's look for their. Do they have an HQ? I like that they split it into 3 units. Rather than just doing one unit with a bunch of different options in it. I don't think that they have a leader guy. That's too bad. So you can't actually make Arbites detachments? Aw. Aw, chat, I'm sad. This is like the same wording. I hate these. I guess it doesn't matter so much to these guys because they actually have HQs. But I fucking hate this rule. This rule that like you can only they can't fulfill compulsory slot unless that you're playing Adeptus Arbites, but you can't play Adeptus Arbites. The rule has no purpose. It's just pointless. It makes me mad. Very poorly thought out. All right. These guys are cool. I like all these little Agents of the Imperium units. I like that they have like unique mechanics, but I just wish they were good. Probably just too expensive, I think. Melee doesn't have a range. Yeah, I guess you're not wrong, right? Gilliman gives them reroll ones. Yeah. Is there like a random psychic power somewhere? What do Inquisitors get for psychic powers? The Telethesia discipline. Where is that? Is that in this document? Yes. Maybe not. Sag. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like G-Man is the answer there. I don't know. Oh well, it's sad. Yeah, I do like Agents of the Imperium for sure, but again, yeah, I think I'm with you, chat. They just, I mean, like I said, I think that their hands are tied a little bit because they can't make the Agents of the Imperium stuff like super strong because then it ends up just being like really kind of degenerate for Imperium subfactions. So they always pull their punches on these things, and they like upcharge them by like 20 or 30% for no reason, and then they like nerf all their abilities so they don't do anything. Like why wouldn't the policemen have a bonus in melee? Like why can't the policemen like arrest you? Like the policemen get better at shooting at you? Like okay. That's fucking weird. But like, I don't know. And also the fact that you can't take them in detachments too is, or you can't build detachments of them is super annoying. Like if Arcs of Omen, like Imperium subfactions take an Agents of the Imperium detachment, and then they gave all these little tiny sub-factions a unique HQ, that would be good. This is Navis Imperialis, which is better, right? Because you get the Rogue Trader, I think. Or like if Inquisitors could just get one of these keywords so that they could lead the detachment, that would be cool. Be quiet, Inky. She's complaining because I don't know why. Is the Rogue Trader in here? Can you still take them? Shows how out of touch I am with Agents of the Imperium. How do I not know all the rules in Codex Agents of Imperium? So lame. I guess not. Oh, shit. Well, that sucks. Did she get added to the Voidsman squad? No. Did it just get rid of the Rogue Trader? I thought it was called like a Navis ship. Oh, no. Cartographica Rogue Trader. Here she is. Okay, yeah. She is Navis Imperialis. Okay, yeah. So you can make Imperial Navy detachments, but there's not an equivalent for Arbites. What the fuck? Also, why is she on page 16? All the other HQs are at the top. What are you doing? So you can take Breachers and ship and Voidsmen in a detachment, but you can't take Arbites in a detachment. That's really stupid. And then you could like give them cool synergies and make them like cool little sub-factions. I don't know. I'm all about like flexing the creative muscles. She gives, you know, Navis Imperialis +1 to hit. It'd be cool if they had like unique mechanics that were a little bit more interesting, but I guess not. Whatever. Rogue Trader's full army faction would be nice. Yeah, I agree. They could do it, right? Like, I think that there is definitely some lost opportunity. Not that they really need it. Like, the game has enough sub-factions as it is. But there's definitely some lost opportunity in, like, just converting existing models into new like factions and sub-factions. Like we already have, right? So there's like the Rogue Trader profile, the Voidsman profile, the Imperial Navy Breacher profile, and then you add in like Kroot. You know what I'm saying? And you add like these like mercenaries and like maybe a guardsman squad, like a sort of mook guardsman unit. And some like random old like Forge World garbage, and be like, I don't know, it's a Rogue Trader army, and then like you could release an index for that, and that would be cool. I think it, like, I don't know, it bloats the game to the point that they probably don't need the extra stress, and having it as an Agents of the Imperium would be cool, but I don't know. It'd be cool to have. I think that's a kind of a quality of life thing. I don't know if it would actually change the game too much. It'd be sweet though. The article has more info in 10th edition? That's weird. Okay. Where did my article go? Not this one. Oh, I think it opened up in the same tab. Let's just go back. Not what I wanted. Why does... Okay. Why does that link go there? Who knows? Let's see. Yep, we've read all of these things. Agents of the Imperium in new 40k. Much like in the current edition, Agents of the Imperium can join other Imperial armies, just as auxiliaries and overseers, but this time the rules are a little different. The maximum number of Agents of the Imperium you can include in your army depends on battle size. So a normal game, you'd get you get two normal units and 2 characters. Imperial Knights get their own rules. They don't use MBH as the Imperium, so they don't. I guess they're not a retinue, right? Because you can't add things to a knight unit. So that would be weird. Models won't benefit from the detachment rule or have access to enhancements. Said they don't get their own. All right, well, cool. I guess that's okay. Sure. Yeah, I wish there was more rules on exactly what they did, but that's okay. I'm just champing at the bit for 10th edition info, chats. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, chat. It's the mercenary tax on these guys? Yeah, that makes sense. It's real, that's real, like, War Machine and Hordes energy. Where your mercenary units would be awkwardly worse. Which is, I don't know, it's unfortunate. It's just like, it's how you have to make mercenary units. You can't make them better than any in-faction unit. They just have to allow you to cover your bases in interesting ways, but it is unfortunate that, like, you come out with these. You have these, like, interesting and unique units, but they always have to be kind of bad. But, whatever. Should merge Inquisition into Agents of the Imperium? It is in Agents of the Imperium. That's where Inquisition is. What are my thoughts on characters joining units? I don't know. It seems fine. I didn't really have much to say, like, after the article dropped. I was like, I think we kind of have to see what both the characters and the units do. I did read through the article. We can talk about that one, I guess. That was on the front page a second ago. This is Ragnar Blackmane discussion. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so it talked about the, like, Primaris Lieutenant abilities. I thought it was interesting that it's not like old editions of 40k where you join a unit and then you can leave it and join a different unit at any time. They just become part of the unit. It's very like it feels very like rank and flanky, like really Song of Ice and Fire kind of energy, where you just a character's just an upgrade to a unit. I like that you can switch it pre-game which unit they're assigned to. I think that's pretty cool. So if you have different units that are like better in certain matchups, you can buff those ones and make them better. But it does feel like I'm a little worried about characters just being kind of like you take your combat units, right? Like I don't know how often you're going to be assigning a bunch of characters to like an intercessor squad and then like buffing it up, because it feels like you want to be assigning them only to the squads that are already good at fighting, and the base infantry troops probably won't be. So like, and then the downside obviously is that once the unit gets killed, the character's also dead. So like, I don't know, characters don't seem that great. So I'm hoping that they will be like costed accordingly, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they end up having this like very restrictive leadership ability, where they have like a very limited number of units that they can be assigned to, and they can buff, and you only ever take the versions of the character that can be attached to the types of units that are good, and then you only ever like you can't attach them to aggressor squads, right? Because you can probably only attach Gravis characters to aggressor squads. So you probably just never see the intercessor guys, because I don't know if you're ever gonna assign them to an intercessor unit. And you're just going to play the aggressor one, because not only is it harder, but it also has more attacks, so the benefits that you grant are benefiting more models. So, I don't know. It feels kind of binary, I guess. I think I might have liked to see, I don't know, either like more unrestricted attachment rules or more effect. But again, we don't know what all the abilities do. Lieutenants also being able to come in with captains is kind of insane, because they might be the, like, Space Marines might be the only faction where you get double of a benefit on a unit. Inky's coming to say hi, by the way, chat. Inky, say hi to chat. Say hi to chat. Hello. There she is. Hi. So, yeah, we'll see. I do like that some units just get old school Lookoutser, like, back. So, like, I think they talk, yeah, Lionel Johnson gets it. Like, he gets bodyguarded by infantry. Fieros gets bodyguarded by vehicles. I like this ability. I think that this ability is probably just how characters should always have worked. Where, like, if you are... Oh, my fucking camera. God damn it. This is very frustrating. Oh, it's just dead now. Okay, well, no camera, I guess. Jesus Christ. Where you're basically unrestricted on targeting as long as you're next to them. As long as they can, like, benefit from bodyguard or whatever. I sort of just wish that was how characters worked. Now, to be fair, I'm also, like, really... I'm in, like, the camp of characters in a big way. I really like sort of hero hammer style armies, so I would prefer to see characters be cool and powerful rather than just be an upgrade for a unit. So, like, if your unit is good, it becomes better with a character in it, and if your unit is bad, you just won't take it with a character, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. Like to know how buffing everything is supposed to help the game move along faster. I mean, it clearly does, right? Because the characters no longer are their own unit, right? Like, right now, like, moving a character is, like, you have to do all sorts of trigonometry, right? Like, you have to, well, I have to stay within 3 inches of my unit, so I have to move my unit up to where the character can move to within 3, but then I need him to be within 6 of this unit to buff it with the aura. So I have to ensure that he's, like, where he places is within 3 of this unit and within 6 of this unit. So I have to move that unit to this position where they're going to be within 6 of where the character moves. Then the character moves, and then the next unit moves, and you have to make sure that unit is also on the other side of his aura. So you have to make sure that it's, like, broadcast wide enough. So, like, moving a character that's trying to buff your whole army is, like, kind of a nightmare right now. And just having them be attached to a unit and they're just like a little infantry dude who runs around with it is so much easier. From a streamlining perspective, the new system's, like, way better. Like, light years better. But it does, I mean, but it is, like, exponentially less powerful. It does mean that they can do cooler stuff with the character abilities, though, right? Because this gives, I think that they implied that this is just, like, this is Gene Rot Might, right? Where, like, a 6 to hit automatically wounds, which is, like, kind of enormous. That's, like, a huge buff. And if you have, you know, if you can stack them with a Captain Aura, which, you know, probably does something, and then, like, the unit gets full reroll modes at the moment and, like, a double tap or something, like, they, like, I don't know, you could make intercessors just slap super hard. But the question is whether or not that's going to be worth it. And I have no idea. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on that article. But yeah, how are we excited about? Speaking of moving on from 10th edition, just before we wrap things up here, because I think we're kind of winding down a little bit. How are people feeling about the Dataslate changes? I know 10th edition has been, like, a big part of the discourse right now, but we've got at least, you know, at least a month and a half left in 9th. There's still going to be, you know, almost 2 months of gameplay left in 9th, and I think that, I'm glad, I guess, that they didn't just, like, turn over the cabbage cart at the end here and just say, like, whatever, everything goes. But I am a little bit worried it didn't quite go far enough. Mostly on Inflexible Command. I was shocked that Inflexible Command got buffed rather than nerfed. That was interesting. But I do think, I mean, Astro Militarum are less powerful. I do think that there's a lot of situations where they're gonna struggle a lot more to do, like, the same ridiculous amount of damage. I guess instead of changing their, like, Astro Militarum sort of fought you on 2 different fronts, right? They aren't particularly resilient. They're a little annoying to kill, but they aren't super tough to kill. and they aren't like particularly fast, but what they do is they kill you on secondaries and they kill you on raw damage output. And they nerfed the damage output but kept the secondaries the same. So they're still probably like a top 3 faction or whatever, but I don't know if they're kind of clearly far and away number 1. Gonna laugh if you can fire 8 chain gun havocs from a single rhino. It looks like you probably only shoot one or 2 guys off the top, I imagine. Assassinate seems easier. Well, that's, I mean, who knows if Assassinate's even gonna be a mechanic? Like, we don't know how missions will work. It's not unlikely that there are no secondary objectives. Like, that seems like that's an interesting call to make, I think. 30 Deathwing Terminators and 3 characters you're pinning right now are quite sad. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, like, Dark Angels still have plenty of other directions that they can go in. I don't think being like, oh no, my Deathwing Terminators aren't literally unkillable gods of the battlefield anymore, I think is... You might still play one unit just to bulwark the center, but then you focus on the bikes, and the bikes are going to be super strong. And I think that's fine. That is a shocking change, though. Instead of changing it to Stalwart, just removing it entirely is sort of insane. I'm glad that they buffed Deathwatch, but it doesn't feel to me like the changes were big enough. I think you needed to like transform the Deathwatch faction with this change. I kind of wish they did this. So they went the Super Doctrine route, where you just get Super Doctrines from your Deathwatch army. Deathwatch have just lost so much recently. I don't think this actually does really that much for them, to be honest. But having a better secondary is good. I guess it's okay. And I guess like in the comparison to other Space Marine chapters, they did get a little bit better, but that doesn't really, I think, change their win rate that much. So anyway, yeah, I think that's all that we got to talk about. I don't know, I was hoping for a little bit more interesting discussion out of this data slate, but I think we can call it. We can probably call it there for a bit. Anyway, everybody, thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I'm gonna work on some videos. Probably, I think I'm gonna do. I'll do one last power ranking. My fucking camera again. Holy shit, dude. What is wrong with this? It's gone. Or that's a sign. That's super frustrating. I think, yeah, I'll probably do one last like power ranking for the end of the edition here. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's all we got to talk about. Could have uncapped Thousand Sun Smites. I guess maybe. That does feel a little bit too strong, maybe. I guess like maybe that's the direction they go in. I think the issue with Thousand Suns is survivability, not necessarily damage output, right? That's always been what it feels like to me. Like they can do a bunch of damage the turn that they jump in and hit you, but then they just die. And I guess like you could make it so that they do infinitely more damage. But the that I don't know, it doesn't feel as good. I'd rather them, yeah. They could have just like given them Armor of Contempt. Imagine if Allah's Dust just turned into AOC or something. I don't know. All right, chat. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. I am going to hop off, but I will talk to you later. I don't think I'm gonna stream anymore today. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have time. But I will be live tomorrow. I may do some gameplay tomorrow, and we also have late in the evening U.S. Eastern time. We do have a pod finals. I think that's at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern. So come hang out for that. That should be an interesting one. That's over on the Twitchies, so twitch.tv/TacticalTortoise TV. And otherwise, yeah, have a good one. And I will see you later.